Kazakhstan is a huge country in the heart of Asia, with its own culture, traditions, and customs. But at the same time, Kazakhstan is a former Soviet republic. This means it has all the diseases of post-Soviet countries. For example, it has identical neighborhoods with grey panel buildings, a backward approach to architecture, urbanism, and urban improvement. It also has unique problems. Like Chernobyl in Ukraine, Kazakhstan has its own disaster. Today I will show you how Kazakh cities can look like with a quality approach to urban development. And I will do it with specific examples. We will also touch upon the topic of unique locations in Kazakhstan outside of cities. Andrei Gupsa is with you. Enjoy your viewing. For the first renovation, we took the capital city of Astana, or Nur-Sultan. Astana is a good example of a capital city that was built in a very short time and absorbed all the urban mistakes of its era. Gigantomania, inhuman distances, excessive building heights, and a large number of unimproved wastelands. However, all this was built on such a large scale that it looks majestic and solemn. Nur-Sultan is one of the few cities that was built from scratch in the 21st century, and it would seem that the city should be just perfect, at least without Khrushchev panels. There really are no Khrushchev panels. However, the saw in the form of deserted apartment buildings is there in all its glory. I was struck by the distance between the houses, which is simply enormous, and there is practically no infrastructure. Just huge houses, and huge roads, and huge wastelands. And now let's go down to one of the streets of this city, which is not yet built up. Surely more high-rise buildings will appear here soon. But let's imagine an ideal future. Instead of huge buildings and vast wastelands, there are cozy low-rise houses with adequate distance from each other and beautiful landscaping. Almost every building is unique. Even parking lots have found a place. Kazakhstan is incredibly rich in resources. This country has the world's largest deposits of iron ore, coal, oil, gas, uranium, and other minerals. Therefore, the main budget item in Kazakhstan is the sale of raw materials. But despite the abundant natural resources, the post-Soviet heritage, namely the backyards, looks like this. Wastelands, wastelands, wastelands. This is Petropavlovsk, and now you will see what a typical yard in a modern country should look like. And now let's visit some of Kazakhstan's out-of-town locations, some of which are very impressive. Kazakhstan was home to the largest nuclear test site in the Soviet Union, Semipalatinsk. 468 nuclear tests were conducted there. To this day, the entire land in this area is covered with huge craters from nuclear bomb explosions. In another part of the country, on the banks of the Sirdarya River, there is a small village of Baikonur. Next to it is the famous spaceport, from which the world's first manned spacecraft with a man on board was launched on April 12, 1961. This man was the well-known Yuri Gagarin. Kazakhstan can also be called a country of huge lakes. As mentioned earlier, the Caspian Sea is located in the west of the country, which is not a sea because it has no access to the ocean. However, it is the world's largest salt lake. To the east of it is the Aral Sea, which is also not a sea, but is an example of one of the largest man-made disasters in human history, which for some reason is not talked about much, but is certainly not inferior to Chernobyl in terms of its scale. In the 60s, the Aral was the fourth largest lake in the world. Because of its saltwater and enormous size, it has long been called the Sea, with port cities on its shores, ships sailing here, and a major fishing center. Hardly anyone could have imagined that from the mid-60s, the Aral would begin to dry up very rapidly. To this day, only 10% of the Aral Sea's water mirror remains. Port cities now stand on the edge of the desert, with ships rusting in the middle of it. Only sandstorms bring sea salt here. There were several projects to save the Aral Sea. It was planned to use canals to redirect some of the water from several rivers here. But these projects are too expensive and can change the balance of nature in other regions. Currently, the Aral Sea disaster is in no way inferior in scale and environmental damage to Chernobyl. and it seems that these places will never be prosperous again. Kazakhstan is an unusual country, with colorful cities that mix European and Asian cultures. A country with a great past and great prospects for the future. A country that combines different regions, peoples, and cultures. Of course, in such a country, there will always be disputes about the past and the future. And of course, as in any other country, there will be political disputes about whether our rulers are good or not. Or perhaps much more could have been built with our resources. But the main thing is that these disputes always end peacefully. I wish Kazakhstan peace and prosperity, and I wish myself 1,000 subscribers on this channel.